In these next series of videos, I'm going to show you exactly how you can build a full e-commerce AI data pipeline using Airbyte, the Stripe API, Supabase, and OpenAI. You're going to be able to be moving data seamlessly with Airbyte. That data is then going to go into Supabase with PGVector enabled. And then we're going to be building a chatbot that's pretty simple, and you're able to ask questions on top of all of your Stripe data. So let's get into this first part of the video where we're going to be setting up the Stripe API using the connector builder inside of Airbyte. All right, so I'm in the Airbyte UI right now on Airbyte Cloud. I'm going to head over to the builder section here, and I've already created it, but if you wanted to create a new custom connector, if you're following along in this video, you're going to go to the top right, click new custom connector, click start from scratch, and from there you can do skip and start manually, or you can use our new AI assistant that makes it really easy to create custom connectors with APIs. All you have to do simply is find the documentation for that API, post it right here. Whatever endpoint you're trying to get to first, you can put that here under the first data stream, name it, and then have AI essentially create this custom connector for you. For this video though, you can skip and start manually since I've already built it for you, so you can just go ahead and fill it out if you want. But anyways, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go into my Stripe custom built API connector. As I said, I've already filled everything out. So the base URL here is going to be the api.stripe.com. It uses a bearer token for authentication, so I've gone ahead and set that up. With that, you'll notice at the top right here, testing values. If you haven't used the connector builder before, you can go ahead and click this and paste in your API key for testing within the connector builder. Down on the bottom left here, I have 4 different streams going. I have the customers endpoint, I have the search customer endpoint for more specificity, I have the invoices endpoint, and finally the products endpoint. For the customers endpoint, I have the URL path, and you can see that it gets appended to the base URL. To get HTTP method, we're going to get JSON back in the format. If we wanted XML, JSON lines are iterable. Depending on what the API accepts, we'll go ahead and select that, but JSON is pretty standard in this case. The field path on the record selector, I've tapped into the data object that comes back from the response, and so I just get the results that I need from the payload. And then down below, if I need to add any pagination or anything like that, I can go ahead and do so, but this is a pretty bare bones API where I'm just pulling back all the records from the response. If I wanted to go ahead and test this, remember that we put in our API key into the testing value. So if I click test here on the right hand side, you'll see that the records come back and I can actually see what the response looks like. And so if right here, we have all the customers that are currently inside of my Stripe instance. The same goes for all the other different streams. So if I go to search customer, this is going to be for a specific search. And you'll notice that in the testing values, there's actually an optional field here for the customer, and that's if I wanted to specify if I only wanted like one customer back. I'm not going to do it for this video since I don't really need it, but it's just to show essentially what you can do if you wanted to do some sort of like custom configuration with query parameters. And you can see down here in the query parameters, we're actually putting in a key and then using the config that we used up here as the customer, and it'll input it into the outgoing HTTP request. Down in invoices, it's going to be the same deal here. We're using the invoices endpoint and then the products endpoint. And so these are very, very simple. You can get a little bit more complex, and I highly recommend checking out the documentation if you haven't on the connector builder, since there's a lot more than you can actually do than I'm showing right now. There's a lot of other videos on our channel as well that showcase the capabilities of the connector builder. Now that I've shown you exactly what you can do, and let's say you are in a good spot with the connector builder, what we can now do is actually publish this to our workspace. To do that, all I have to do is go to the top right-hand side of the page, click publish, and give it a name, what version. If I want to set it as a description and the active version, you're able to do that all here. And then you can click publish, and what it'll do is it'll publish out to your workspace. So let me go ahead and exit the builder here. If I go to my sources, click new source, and under the custom tab here, you'll see all your custom connectors, and the Stripe one is here with the API key being a required field, as I mentioned and showed before. We'd simply paste our API key here. We'd click setup source, and it'll check to see if your API key is valid. And if it does, and we're getting a 200 back from the Stripe API or whatever API you've chosen to use, then we know on the Airbyte side that we're good to connect to this API. Let me show you now what I've already set up. I have a Stripe to Supabase connector going currently. I've synced the customers, invoices, and products streams that I showed you earlier. You'll see that there's 9 loaded records with 1 invoice and 1 product. If I head over to the schema, I can actually pick and choose what from each stream that I want. So I can click this down, and you'll see that all these different columns coming in from the table. I can opt to remove the metadata, remove the ID if I wanted to. There's a bunch bunch of different things you can do here, but it's nice to know that I don't have to take in the full table if I don't want to. One thing you'll notice on the Supabase side here on the destination level is it's actually using PGVector. If you're unfamiliar with PGVector, it's simply just an extension on Postgres that enables embeddings to be written into the actual database itself. And from there, that enables a lot of AI use cases within Postgres. If I click this, you'll notice that all my specific PGVector information here. So key things to note is this embedding tab. We're actually able to create the embeddings as the data is moving through Airbyte into PGVector. There are a couple different options for models that you can choose on the embedding side that we allow. So there's OpenAI, Cohere, Fake if you're just doing some POC or development, Azure OpenAI, or anything OpenAI compatible. I've already inputted my OpenAI API key, and so that is what's creating the embeddings right now. And then on the indexing section, this is my information to the Supabase instance that has my Postgres database that we're writing into. If you haven't already, if we're going to go back to our connector here, we can actually just click sync now, and you'll see in the timeline that I've done this a couple times and that my syncs have succeeded here, and my record should be in Supabase. In the next video, I'm going to show you the Supabase instance that I have, what the data looks like inside of all those tables when Airbyte is done writing them into Supabase. And then the final video is going to be how we can create this chatbot or this AI agent on top of our data within Supabase and start asking it questions and giving it the context. Now remember, if you haven't done this already and you are following along, Airbyte Cloud, you can sign up for a 14-day free trial right now so you can follow along in this video. Make sure you do that. You can find the link to that down below, but we'll see you in the next video.